Two. Yeah. Aye. I'm jacking the beat, you calling the cops, the yapping is cheap, I call you the ops, the rapping is heating, it's all cause of pop. You get a leak for the ball, get a drop. Feel like I'm wrong when I double it back, cause I'm making it harder to catch that. But I covered the ticket, I call you to visit, you tipping and hit up the cash app. Baby girl, been around for it, yeah. In the old days, I was stuck in old ways, never really trying to flip the old page. Young man tripping at an old age, thinking I was flicking, had a low wage, led the broad days, then a slow praise, thinking it'd be different, it was gone change, then it really didn't, it's a cold game, yeah, ayy. All I really wanted was the money in the pocket, got over money, but the money ain't a topic, like Bill Doe and the money gotta stop it, kid need food and the whip need juice, I'ma get these views when the
One of the many questions that I receive is, Liddell, how do I get into those rooms? Well, this interview series is just for you, so welcome to the room. What's good, guys? It's your partner. We back in the saddle again for another edition of the Countermove podcast, the interview series. And again, I told you guys we get into this room, guys. And so one of the good things that we got to look at is also looking at the political side, which is also the business side of the room. And we have a special guest here, guys, a good friend of mine. All right. But let me kind of give her the proper introduction, guys. She is a wife. She is a mother. All right. And she's also a businesswoman and also a congressional candidate, guys. Give a hand clap of praise, guys, to my friend Suzanne Harp. Suzanne, how you doing? You doing all right?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Liddell. Thank you for having me. This is going to be such a joy and good fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, guys. Guys, you guys are in a special treat because we're gonna talk about business, family, and also politics too. I know our politics can get a little spicy on this one, guys. Again, I don't like debates, even though debates can be cool. I want to kind of lean in and reason together and prescribe solutions. And there's no one better that I think when it comes to this type of situation than Suzanne. So, Suzanne, let's dive into this thing real quickly.
Okay.
Who is Suzanne Harp?
Oh, I love your introduction because first and foremost, I think of myself as that mom. So Bill and I have been married for a long time, 28 years. We're high school sweethearts, and I somehow I convinced him to marry this Greek woman who's right. And we joke, I don't think you know what you were getting into, and he goes, no, I really didn't. But and I also convinced him to have a big family. My faith and my heritage is very important to me. On my mom's side, we're 6th-generation Texans, right? So we were those who, really believed in the fabric of starting this, which was its own country, right? We fought a war over the state. But we believe in Texas. We believe in Texas values. So we've been here a long time. My dad came to the United States after World War II and after communism swept through Athens, Greece, and he was a little boy when the Nazis rolled in the street. So he taught us why America is so special and why freedom and why liberty is so special to fight for and to keep and preserve in our way of life. So my faith is incredibly important to me. I was saved at 16. I know the Lord Jesus and that plays in all of it. And the way we raised our 4 children, and of course we're super proud of them. But to answer your question, I think of myself first and foremost as that mom with this deep, rich heritage, and both an immigrant and somebody who's my mom who's been here for a really long time. And then I love business like you. I am in mergers and acquisitions. I work for an iBank that does an incredible job for our clients to make sure that they're realizing that generational wealth and for their posterity to pass on to the next generation. And these business owners carefully watch how their company is raised, and then a lot of them view it as their child. And then when it is then sold and handed off to someone, they want to make sure their legacy is intact. Their employees are well taken care of. And so we take a lot of care to make sure we find the right person that baton can be handed off to. So I love the business world. And of course, I love our community. Bill and I've lived in Allen for 20 3 years now, and we've lived in Collin County for 25 years. I was born and raised in Dallas, went to the University of Texas at Dallas. I, involved in both the Cowboys organization and the Mavericks organization. And
Okay.
so, Dallas and its suburbs have a lot to offer, and they're a beacon of I call world-class excellence. And that's a part of who I am as well. I always say, if I'm not anything, I am Collin County. I'm a
Yeah.
product of Collin County, a product of Dallas. And I want us to be world-class and to share our values with the rest of the nation and be that beacon of what does prosperity really look like? What does it look like to have a sound family and a home and businesses that prosper, communities that work well together? And when we have a tragedy, that we come together, because we're not immune, right, from those things, but we come together. That's what I hope to communicate, through this campaign as we're running. Who I am is really, I'm just like you. I'm a business person, I'm a family person. And I believe that if you and I sit down for long enough, we'll come up with the solutions together. That all these problems that face us do have solutions that we can listen to one another very carefully.
Yeah.
What's important, craft them, and then put them into play. Be people of our word, and just do what we say we're going to do for America, for Texas. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm not super exciting.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. At the introduction, what I normally do is I let the guests go on because I want to know all things about who you are.
Right.
For the audience to know that as well. Also, now, you just said something that I didn't know, guys.
Yeah.
I thought that she went to UT Dallas.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I actually played college basketball there.
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
I was on the second team ever in the university's history.
That is wonderful. It's a good school. It's a
Very
serious
good
school.
school.
It's for professionals. It's for people who really want to advance their career. And I'm so proud of what the university has done from its inception to now, and how the campus has grown, and the faculty is wonderful, and the different programs that they offer. It's really a hidden gem here in Dallas, and I hope that it continues to flourish. And and I know it will. But so
it's grown a lot too. I mean, it's got. When I went there, I'm like, I drive by it now, and I'm like, this is different than when I get. I mean, there used to be like a big old field in front of the school. Now
yes,
that field is just full of soccer fields. They got new dorms, and I'm like, this was not there when I was playing. But
they're doing
it's okay.
amazing things there.
They are. They are. They are. Now, quick question for you. Let's go to the second question.
Mhm.
Why was mergers and acquisitions, or M&As, the industry that you chose to build your wealth in?
Well, that's a great question. So at my core, I help companies get started. I'm really a strategist at my nature. I like to see things, 15, 20 steps down the road of where that will take us. And so my company I'm currently at was actually my client beforehand. I had done a series of
Really?
startups,
Okay.
helping them finding funding, putting the right people in the right seats, branding, having a value prop that the community or business community or consumer would need. And so that's me. I'm that kind of dreamer that goes behind the business owner. Well, and I had worked for 4 years with a international company, and we with data tech startup company, and so it was really quite interesting to get them off the ground and get them going. And then my current client, my current company was my client, and they asked me to come and start a whole new business vertical internally.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing. We're 2 years into that venture, and because I knew them so well, they were my client for so long, I knew the product. And so what it is with business, Liddell, it doesn't matter if it's mergers or acquisitions. It doesn't matter if it's technology, SaaS. It doesn't matter what it is. Are you offering something that is needed, as a good and service that is needed? Right?
Sure.
Are you adding value? And so that's what I think we need to do. And even on the legislative process, are we adding value to America? Are we adding value to the Texans that are trusting us to go and serve on their behalf? And that's what I think business should do. The mergers and acquisitions, the reason why I chose to get into it is because you are helping them sell potentially or grow their company that will then be next generation's wealth, the next generation's wealth. And then if you do it properly, And if that transition is done well, the employees are taken care of. If that transition is done well, then the community still is served by that good or service. So it
Okay.
has a tremendous amount of value. And most of America is made up of small businesses under
That's
$1
correct.
million in revenue. Think about
That's
that.
correct.
Most of our employment comes from there. So it's a vital part of our fabric as we are as Americans. When you're in different countries, whether it be China or even countries that are being raised up from the grounds of ashes of war in Afghanistan or in whether everybody wants to own something. Right.
Sure.
In America,
Right.
we own things. We own property. We own businesses, and that is what our hope comes from a lot of way in the American dream.
Yes.
So in mergers and acquisitions, we allow that to perpetuate, to continue, to make sure it's protected. In some ways, in this industry, it can be quite harsh. You should
Can.
know businesses can be stolen from the business owner.
Yes.
Terms and agreements are important. What the payout is just as important as what the term or the laying out of those payouts are. That's all important as well. So protecting that business owner through
Yes.
that process is so vital. And when you
Yes.
have a beautiful team, there's, we have more than 300 employees and we're growing all the time. We're doing a lot of acquisitions ourselves with buying different companies that make sense for our business owner to help them in their venture of going on to the next step or to grow their business in preparation for that. So it's an exciting
It
field,
is. It
very
is.
exciting. And it has the ability to transfer such wealth,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That and I think of as we go on, when we can talk about different things like energy independence and whatnot like that, and the big
Yeah.
transfers of wealth that come from that. But if we can protect small businesses, and I'm talking
Sure.
anything that's under $1 billion in revenue, everybody was like, "What is your market?" It's for anything from a startup to anything under $1 billion in revenue. And that's what I could consider the little ones. But most of them are in the lower mid market,
Yes.
vast majority.
Yeah.
If we can protect them and help them grow, then we are protecting America. We're protecting and helping America grow. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Let's go into the boardroom because you actually mentioned because guys, mergers and acquisitions is in the PEVC space, which is fine, and that's down my wheelhouse.
right.
Um, as you go into the negotiations, uh, whenever how do you take us into that boardroom whenever you have a client that's looking to either sell or acquire a business?
Right.
What is the most important thing that you servicing the client look for when negotiating the deal?
Well, I want to know that I can actually get it done. So that's
Mm.
really important. So when I'm bringing on a client and we look at their financials, we look at the company culture, we look at will it be a low risk for a potential buyer to buy? We look
Sure.
for all kinds of things because we want to make sure we're setting them up for success.
Yes.
So there's a lot of pre-qualifying that goes into deciding whether a company can be sold. Is it just a concept or is it a company? That's
Mm.
also important. Can the company run without the owner being there? Do they have
Mm.
recurring revenue? Do they have maybe a product that we believe is going to blow it out of the market if the right capital infused, right? We've had medical device companies that, they've had so many great concept, maybe a lot of patents, but they don't have the capital to make that
Mm.
company grow. So to answer your question very specifically, when I'm looking at a company, the first thing I'm asking is, can it be sold? Can we do it? And can we do it well? Can we get it across the finish line?
Mm.
And when we're negotiating, there's a lot of front end. We have to ask the business owner, are you okay with maybe getting a 10-year payout? Are you okay with staying on with the company for 2 to 5 years,
Mm.
whatever it is, to make sure that you're getting the return, because if they leave immediately, Liddell, it's not as high of a return. That's pretty well known.
Sure.
It raises the risk for the buyer.
It does.
Right.
It does.
There's a lot of front end qualifying that you have to have a nice grasp of what it means to be in this acquisition market. You have to understand what's the cost of capital right now. Is it the right time to exit now? Or if you don't go now, should you wait for the next cycle? Because this stuff is very cyclical.
Mhm.
Is that what we do? And we want to make sure we're coaching them on, what is in the best interest of that client. So that's the first
Sure.
and foremost what I'm looking for.
Sure.
If we have, we are sell side, so and we
Mhm.
keep our loyalties very pure like that. Not all ag banks do, but that's okay. But we do. We just want to make sure everything we're doing is in line with the seller.
Makes sense.
In legislation, we want to make sure everything that we're doing is in line with the voter, with the
Yes.
intent of the Constitution, with our
Yes.
freedoms. And so there's a lot of synergies there in the parallel thinking. Right.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. I know, guys, she just gave you guys a little bit of a master class, a little bit on because typically we do a lot of funding of
Right.
companies, infusing capital into it, or acquiring a company at a discount. The key word is discount. We're actually trying to acquire it. So we're looking for not so much startups. We're looking for those proof of concept companies when we actually looking to infuse capital into.
Right.
But also, when she's on the sales side, guys, she's right. If the founder or the operator of the company wants the capital infusion, but they want to leave, that's risky for us because you got it to here, and now you want to bounce. Like what's going on here? Like what's going on here? And
Right.
so that is something, guys. So what she said, guys, write that down, rewind it, and put that on your pad, and really kind of learn from that. Now, she did mention also some legislation as well. And so I'm gonna go to the next question.
Yes.
Why did you think it was wise for you to step into the political ring?
Well, that's a beautiful question. When I saw in 2020 our political climate, I feel like took a drastic dive for the
Mm,
negative, very toxic.
yeah.
And it seemed to me, and many others, by the way, that
Mhm.
all of a sudden politics, Democrats and Republicans used to believe a lot of the same things, but how to get there was different, right?
Sure.
We used to believe that. We used to believe in First Amendment freedom of speeches. We used to believe, and we want everybody to have the opportunity to succeed. We used to believe
Yes.
in certain principal things, but then we saw a shift where if you don't align with me 100%, I'm going to go after you politically. I'm going to
That's
go
correct.
after you, try to destroy you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we felt it personally in my own family. My son was able to serve in a nice capacity in Congress, and because he was on the right, the far left came after him
Mm,
and tried to, take him down. They want to garnish his private emails or his text messages and whatnot. And so what was
wow.
happening was, and we see it today,
We do.
is the use of our political process to be weaponized against your political opponent.
Yeah.
And so we don't want that for Dem. That's not a Democrat issue. That's not a Republican issue. That's just
Yeah.
an American issue. Every American should be concerned about. And I often say that, Liddell, my issues, I don't believe are far right. I
Mm,
believe they're just American issues. I believe in freedom. I believe in fairness. I believe in everybody being able to get, a piece of the American dream. And I'm interested, and you are interested in helping people get there because it raises us all up, right? It
that's
raises
correct.
so I wanted to get into the political process and enter this to bring America back together again.
Mm,
Start having conversations and identifying those who are really just more interested in tearing down the other person and maybe putting them. They need to go back to the private sector and understand what it means to earn a paycheck for a little bit and get a dose of reality,
there you go.
right? And I think what I would like to see through this, maybe whether I win or lose, right?
Sure.
Maybe I will encourage normal people like you and me, business
Hmm.
people, to run.
Yeah.
I believe the more normal human beings run, the more people who just really want civility brought back to the political process.
That's correct.
Maybe we'll encourage more people to run,
Hmm.
and then that will be a purity of our system, right? There'll be just normal, and we need more voices.
That's correct.
We need
That's
more
correct.
we need more voices to the process. That's why I decided to run, was really, let's bring America back together again. Let's
Okay.
talk about common sense. And this isn't new. I've heard people do it before. But
Sure.
I think what happens is in that process, they get so beaten down that
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
decide to leave the process. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, what I'm encouraging everybody to do is lean in, press in,
Yeah.
do this for the rest of your life. I
Yes.
want people to be in politics, go back to the private sector, go back into politics in different capacities, school board, city
Yes.
council. It doesn't matter. Serve on EDC or CDC boards,
Sure.
do different things, but find some way you can serve. Serve at
That's
the
correct.
polls, just serve some way. And
Yeah. Yeah, I love when the scripture says, if you wish to be first, you must be last.
mhm,
Seek to serve. And so I can agree with that as well, also. And also, when it comes to those that actually want to get into the political circle, what I
mhm.
gotta tell them is get into politics. Don't let politics get into you.
Yes,
Because when
very
politics gets into you, then that's when your integrity is shot.
right.
It's gone. And we're gonna get into a little bit of this as well, guys. So, but I want you to get to know the person, not the political candidate, but the person of Suzanne Harp. Okay, so understand that person, so you can understand how she thinks and how she manipulates, how she kind of does things a certain way. Now, the one thing that I like about you is you're a businesswoman, right? And you know how to read an income statement
Yes,
and the balance sheet.
right. Those are important.
And very important, very
Those are,
important.
yeah.
The one criticism that I have with a lot of whether it be candidates or political figures,
Hmm.
they can't do that. So you are negotiating multi-trillion-dollar transactions or bills, and you can't read a simple income statement and the balance sheet.
Right.
So if you could, how does the business skills blend into the political negotiation that you have to do, that you will potentially go into when you are actually negotiating deals?
Yeah, that's actually beautiful. So when you're talking, so we have different parties at the table, right? And
Sure.
it's very important to understand their non-negotiables.
Mm,
So you understand the non-negotiables, right? And then you work backwards from there. But that takes a high level of emotional intelligence and the ability
it
to
does.
listen and
Mm,
ask the right questions. So when you have legislation and you know your parties on both sides very well, and what I'd like to say, and I always like to give the example because it was very publicized when they were trying to get Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, to come on their side,
yeah.
especially with
Yes.
spending. So Joe Manchin serves in a very conservative district,
He
right?
does. Yes, he
So
does.
when you're a negotiator, you want to, and just like, also we can talk about firearms and the safety of firearms. You want to know who your target is and the target beyond.
Sure.
If I'm working in a deal and I'm talking to Joe Manchin, he's on the Senate side, I understand, but you
Sure.
want to understand who his constituents are, what
Hmm.
motivates Joe, why Joe got elected, what he tells his constituents, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So then you start to speak his language. Say, Joe, I know it's really important. You guys have family values. Many people that are there in Virginia have been there for a very, very long time.
Yes.
They care about X, Y, and Z. I know that's important to you. And here's how the bill on our side aligns with your constituents. And I know that's important to you. And
Okay.
so you start to build this know, like, and trust because you took the time
Mm,
to know what's his why, and what's important to him. And
sure.
say to him, I know, yeah, I know, Joe, that it's really important. Like I said, these things are important to you. I'd like to share with you what's important to my side.
Mm,
And then you begin to share with them these are the things that are important. And here's are the overlap, what I believe
yeah.
our center ground is, right? When we talk
Yes.
about really hard issues, let's talk about something very
Yeah.
difficult in politics. I mean, if you take the abortion issue right now, which is sent back to the state.
Sure. Sure.
A lot of my girlfriends are Democrats. Okay. And I love them. We're not going to stop being friends because they're on one side, I'm on the other.
Correct.
So I often tell them, what if we put the abortion issue on the back burner for just a second? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know you want to be able to have the right to be in control of your body. I want to have the right
Mm,
to be in control of my body as well. But I see the way you raise your children. And I notice that they're not into hookup culture. And I notice that they love you and they love the family and the family spends a lot of time together. And you emphasize education and you
yes.
emphasize, where are they going to go? And you help them dream. And they're like, yes, 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 yes. If we do that, there won't be abortions to the level that they are right now. But see, what we're
Yeah.
failing is the family.
Okay.
And they agree with me and they say, I actually agree with that. If we can teach little girls and boys, by the way, that hookup culture is so damning to their mind
Mm,
and it hurts when you're rejected. And we tell them about these things and give them a positive alternative.
yeah.
Have a large group of friends and we pour into them about the importance of, you know, lean into being who you are as a human being, lean into that. And we talk about those things and I'm telling you, Liddell, I get buy-in. So all of
Really?
a sudden we've got buy-in on 92% of the topic.
Okay.
And now we're building trust.
Yeah.
They trust me now when I come to them and say, it's really important that the states have this authority and it's not a federal issue because you get to dictate where the dollars go. And I'm
Yeah.
giving you actually more control. And actually, I'm trusting you more with the outcome of this situation and the federal government less. And I know I can trust you. And all of a sudden, now that I've built that in them, the confidence in it, all of a sudden now they're listening to me. Right.
Gotcha.
And so
Yeah.
that's how you negotiate. It's what we have, I believe, are people who don't have the patience or empathy to
Okay.
really lean in to the opposition because they just view them as their enemy.
Well, let me interject here. How do you? And I know you're very aware of this because you're in the negotiating rooms.
Mhm.
Let's bring in the worst case scenario. You're dealing with an unreasonable person on the other side of the aisle.
Mhm, mhm.
So how do you begin to reason with someone, negotiate with someone who's negotiating in bad faith?
That's happened to me. I'll give you two examples of how to handle it because you can't always win. Okay. And I'm going to be super honest in this. But I brought on a client and they gave us financials and they were not truthful. Okay. So it goes
Mm.
all the way through the process and we're about to push the button and our internal team says, we're not going to be able to sell this because
Mm.
X, Y, and Z have not been truthful. So then I have to go back to the client and I have to, you can't call them a liar. That's not okay. You can never do that, right? But you can say, okay, so the financials are not what we once believed they were.
Mm.
We've got a couple of choices here. We can produce two or three consecutive quarters with the findings in which we all agree that they should have been, or we can take you down a different path where we can actually grow the business. And here's the plan to growing the business. And this is going to take a little bit more money on your side.
Yeah.
If you do it this way,
Yeah.
you give yourself the 3 to 5 years that we need, that we believe, because you've got product involved, you've got employees involved, but it's a plan. If you stick to it, we will build a take market. So you give them an out.
Sure.
Right. On the political step, but if they don't take it, then you have to be willing to, we refund money, we walk away.
Walk away. Yeah.
You have to walk away.
Sure.
But in good faith, I did my part, right? And so I can hold
Yeah.
my head up high. Now, on the political realm, I will be very honest with you. Someone like an AOC would be very difficult in the short run
Mm.
to negotiate with. But I do not believe anybody is lost.
So why do you say someone like an AOC would be difficult to negotiate with?
In the short run. In the
Okay.
short run, because they like to be on camera and they like to play to their base and they like,
Okay.
right? So there is a facade or a persona that has
Mm.
that has to be pierced in a way.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
until someone like an AOC, and this could take a decade, right? It could take a long time.
Sure.
Until
Sure.
someone like an AOC likes, and trusts you and understand that you care more about them as a human being than you do about an agenda, they're not going to open up and those walls or those will not come down because they want to be reelected.
Sure.
So the way to deal with a situation like that in the short run is to find the people who are reasonable.
Okay.
Build your camp, right? To build your camp. And so then until they can see the authenticity or the value in actually having an America that's not leaning towards socialism, Marxism, or communism, right?
Yeah.
Until they see that value, which could take time, you have to find the other ones who are willing partners.
Okay.
And that's a tactic, but it takes time. It takes a high level of emotional intelligence and it takes patience.
It does. It does.
That's what I think we're not seeing in America, in our politicians. And we're just as guilty, Liddell. We want a quick fix. So, but we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get it undone overnight. So that's how I would deal with it. You have to press in, be patient, be diligent, and one thing that people will say about me is that she's persistent.
Yeah, she is, guys. She
Very
is.
persistent.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
That's how you deal with it. It's not easy. Sometimes you do have to walk away. And in the walking away,
Okay.
if it is done properly,
Uh-huh.
if it is done properly and you're not burning bridges, If you walk away and you leave that door, that crack that said, when you're ready to speak to me and you're ready to negotiate in good faith, or we can negotiate on this other topic in good faith, right? You leave doors open. You don't ever shut down communication.
Yep. I always say this here is whenever I'm dealing with somebody that's actually doing stuff in bad faith, do I hate it? Yes, because you're being dishonest with me, and I'm coming to you with integrity.
Yes.
But people always say, "Well, I'm done with them." I was like, I can understand being done with the deal, but I never know when I may need that person. So
Yes.
I'm not going to compromise my integrity to go after somebody because I don't never know when I may be in front of that person and I may need their ear for something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I kind of typically negotiate a lot of the time. Sometimes from whether it be on the left or the right, or whether it be in the business realm, they're like, Dale, you too nice. And I said, but I get the job done though.
Yes.
I get the job done. And
Yes.
so my way actually works. That's why you are working for me. See how that thing works?
Yes. I
So,
agree. I
so,
agree.
but it's all good. But I love that approach. I love that breakdown of how to negotiate in the boardroom and also in the boardroom when it comes to Capitol Hill as well.
Right.
Because I believe we have some of the worst negotiators on the planet.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that kind of touched my heart. But now let's dive into some issues, guys.
Yeah.
This is near and dear to me. This first one's near and dear to me is border security.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think you and I can agree that, and if you disagree, let me know. We don't have no southern border right now. It's wide open.
It
And
is.
so, what is your thoughts on the border, and also your prescribed solution to kind of solve this problem?
Yes. Well, the ultimate prescribed solution would be to have a Republican president, a strong
Okay.
Republican president. That's the ultimate solution to it. And we need a border wall.
Mhm.
We need to empower and to make our Texas governor and the rest of them realize you do have the authority to shut down the border. And I know he knows that. But so
Mm,
here's a couple of things I want to leave some of your viewers with. So my daughter has been serving in the way of counter human trafficking for years and years now.
yeah.
My daughter-in-law on the front end, so she can garnish data, write policy, knows where the bad guys sit. There's a lot that goes there with the organizations she works with. On the back end, my daughter-in-law helps those who have come out of trafficking. It's an
Mm,
area that's very dear to my family. I am close with some border agents that are down there that under Trump, they said they would run hot. They had ammunition and they were able to they had the tools that they needed.
okay.
Under Biden, those tools were taken away. The cartel is emboldened. The cartel is funded in a large part by the CCP, by China.
Mm,
The Chinese have told them go take Texas the way we're going to take Taiwan. There's a bunch of propaganda that goes around it, and the fentanyl that's coming across the border, and the slave trade that's right now with our little girls and our little boys being used as sex. It's horrific. It's the most barbaric thing
it is.
imaginable.
It is.
So when I tell people I'm very strict on we need the wall, and we need very strict policies there, and they must come through a door that is opened with a process
Yes.
because it's inhumane what we're doing right
I
now,
agree.
flat out
Agree.
inhumane. Now, on the other end, the process is broken because both parties want it to be broken.
Ooh, say that again for the folk in the back row.
Yeah, the process is broken because both parties want it to be broken.
I agree.
Okay. And this comes into play back to the original point. If we have normal human beings who continue to run for office and have their ideas and they're not beholden to a pack or so worried about being elected again, but yet we return it back to the people, you're going to see sound legislation that comes through. We do need a worker program. We do need to
Sure.
be good neighbors. We do need, and we can elevate, and we can have it all. We absolutely can. We just have to have willing people who want to actually lay out a plan, see
Mm,
it to its fulfillment, and be dedicated to doing that, not using it as a political football every 2 to 4 years.
I agree.
right? And so there is a plan for this, and we ought to. We do not like Trump's tweets, and we do not like Trump on this or that or the other. But I'll tell you, that border was secure.
It was.
Can DeSantis do it? You better believe he can. I like
Yeah.
our bench. I like our Republican bench, by the way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
we're going to have I want a secure, firm border, and I want policies enacted now, not 2 weeks or 10 days from now, like now, that allows for a good worker program to go through. And I think that can be drafted. It shouldn't even take very long. I want Mexico to view us as a partner, not an
Yeah.
adversary. And I want them to lean on us instead of the cartel, instead of the CCP. I want us to have such a tight relationship because most of our trade comes through Mexico,
That's correct.
and so there are some things that we can do to win that know, like, and trust with them.
Okay.
We're going to have to be firm. We're going to have to be tough on them, and it's not. There might be some things in the short run that are not easy,
Sure.
but I believe it's not easy now.
Sure.
You know,
Sure. Now, I would say one of the tools that I think President Trump actually used fairly well was the power of the tariff
yes,
and influence decision making. If
yes,
you're going to allow policies to wound America, we're going to return that favor. So
yeah,
you can, because unfortunately, you want to learn by experience. So let's learn by experience.
right.
Not a problem with it at all. Now, you
No,
did say concerning the border, the governor can do something about this now. And I may be off here. I was talking to Senator Bob Hall, good friend of mine, wise young man as well.
good man, good man.
I actually brought this up to him, and he said, "Well, it's very limited to what the governor can actually do. He can do a state of emergency as far as for the state. That's fine, and then of course put the National Guard down there." He said no sheriff, no police officer, no state trooper can actually deport anyone out because as soon as they do that, what actually happens is they can now go to jail for kidnapping. And so I guess what does the governor know and what can the governor do whenever your federal partner is not acting in concert to protect your
Well,
state?
that's actually a beautiful question. I think you heard during the last gubernatorial run, right? You
Sure.
heard Alan West
Yes.
articulate it. You heard a Don Huffines. You heard Chad
Yes.
Prather, and they would step you very carefully through the Texas Constitution.
Mm.
So if the federal government refuses to close the border, we do have it under our Texas Constitution, that authority to do so. Now, would he be
Really?
sued? Yes. Would all that stuff happen? Yes. But he's being sued now anyway. And so here's what here, as conservatives and limited government, we like to make sure we play by the rules, and we do.
Sure.
We do. But we also, when the others aren't playing by all the rules or
That's
they're
right.
abusing their power, we tend to only stay in our corner and say, well, we might get sued, or this bad thing might happen to us. And what I'm telling you, Greg Abbott would be king for 1,000 years if he'd shut that border.
Wouldn't he? Wouldn't he though?
Be a king for 1,000 years. And so
Mhm.
what I want, I like our governor, and I know
Mhm.
there's been a lot of, so he's doing a lot of really good things. What
Yeah.
I would like to say to him is, you will have our support, Governor, if you will shut that border down, save the lives, take that authority and do it. Yes, is Biden going to sue? Okay, well, he's suing anyway. We're already in legal with them, and
Sure.
that's what I would say do. And there's a lot of kickback, and like you said, oh well, there's only so much that we're really allowed to do. Do it anyway.
There we go.
Do the right thing anyway, and then let's
There
see
we
the
go.
chips fall.
That's
Because
what I'm
women
talking
and
about.
children are being mistreated.
Mhm.
The migrant that's coming across is being mistreated, and the horrific things are happening. Okay,
Yes.
so the solution would be to shut the border. And I got some more solutions, by the way. Do you remember when the Jesus film came out, and that
Yeah.
that film went, and it was like hotcakes, right? It was
Yeah.
saving people for the Lord.
Mhm.
I truly believe that some of those parents in Latin America do not fully understand what happens to their children once they
Mhm.
send them across. And
I
I
agree.
believe if we had testimony from those trafficked children and we sent it back down the border and said, stop sending your children, this is what happens to them.
Yes. Yes.
I think you would see parents, because it's a natural human, it's humanity.
Sure. I
I don't
agree.
want that to happen to my baby.
I agree.
I think we would see some of it staved off. I think we need to do some of that. And obviously, I would like to see us on a. You asked what would do once we get in a Republican president. I would like to see our Republican president have a very hard line to China to stop the fentanyl, to stop the fentanyl
Mm.
cartel, and real teeth and some action to make
I
it
agree.
talk
I
about.
agree with that. I'm actually glad that you said, man, hey, man, if Biden takes you to court, have him take me to court. That's okay.
Yeah,
Force them to play the game.
yeah,
Stop submitting and stop being reactive and be proactive. And I can agree with that. Now, you did mention China, so I got to go to the next topic: energy independence.
yes.
Um, um, I am a I am a firm believer in this because one of our biggest commodities is energy.
Petroleum, petroleum. Mhm.
Exactly. And so, what is your thoughts on right now our relationships with China when it comes to energy, as well as what's your solution in order for us to go back to where we once were, energy independent?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I want us to build refineries here. I want us to be energy independent here. I believe, our dollar was largely based on the petrodollar, and now they're trying to
Sure.
move it on to something else. Our energy, when it is developed here, is the cleanest in the entire world. It is undisputable.
Okay.
We have this real American jobs for real American, mostly men. That's fine. Women can do it too. But it is a strong industry for us. It is just, when you are energy independent, it touches everything else.
It does.
Well, it touches my eggs, it touches my bacon, it touches all that I needed to
It
buy.
does.
Because once you raise the cost of energy, that's the distribution of all product and good,
I agree.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but I'm not against being. We need to have nuclear. We need to do it right, and it can be done right, and it's very, very clean. What
Sure.
I'd like to encourage everybody to understand and do their homework, because our founding fathers said, if this constitutional republic is to stand, we must be moral and educated.
Hmm.
If we're going to do this lean on to electric vehicles, I want
Hmm.
everybody to understand lithium.
Hmm.
I want them to understand where the lithium comes from and how damning it is when you take it out of the earth. And they need small children to help them take it out of the earth, not grown men in Texas oil fields. Okay. So, and it strips the earth in a way, and the way they have to shoot things into products into the earth to extract the lithium, it is actually not good for the environment. Those lithium batteries don't break down very easily. And to replace a lithium battery can be as much as a car. That's a
Sure.
strain on the household income, and I care about household incomes.
Sure.
At the end of the day, when you start to really piece apart what does lithium mean versus petroleum, well, it's a massive transfer of wealth
Hmm.
from U.S. petrodollar to a Chinese-led industry.
That's correct.
And so
Hmm.
we are raising the Chinese economy and lowering the American U.S. economy,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that it's very, I mean, it touches so many things. It's not even,
Not even funny.
it's not it will change the way of life. We should get into AI as well.
Hmm.
Next to AI and next to artificial intelligence, it is just as big as the light bulb. It is
I
just
agree.
as changing to our society
Mm.
as those things. And so we have in Congress people right now who are negotiating regulations
Yes.
that have no idea how
What?
lithium is extracted from the earth, have no idea what it means to move from a petrodollar, have no
Yeah.
idea these things that are happening. And I'm not slamming the older generation, because we need them as our mentors, but they don't
Mm.
have the experience in building the business and understanding where the dollar is drafted from. And they've only been in government their whole life, and they've only had
That's
these
right.
pensions their whole life. They haven't had to produce a good or service or support it. So this is
Gotcha.
what America is hurting right now. And if you go into AI, same thing. The artificial intelligence is changing so much rapidly, hour by hour. The data that they garnish on us, the data that they sell from us, that they know from you, and
Hmm.
we have lawmakers who have never used it before, don't know that it
Hmm.
touches, don't know that a bot is talking to them when they're talking to one of the phone carriers. That's really a bot So that's AI, and it's garnishing their information, garnishing their demeanor and how they act, right? And it's
Yes.
logging it, so AI can continue to become more intelligent. We have lawmakers who are negotiating the restrictions, and they never get it right. They either go too far left or too far right on these
That's right.
things. And so, we'll have corporations. Let me tell you the one thing that's AI that concerns me, much like energy. When you have a transfer of wealth, or with AI, a consolidation of
Mm.
power,
Yes.
it lowers our society and our system.
Mm.
The way our very enterprise is developed. It gives
Uh-huh.
too much power to one individual.
I agree.
Right. And so, and we are not, as Americans, again, not right or left. We are about having a free and fair society, whether it be our laws, the way our economy is set up, and we want to make sure that we have opportunity for those to come. And if you keep
Sure.
centralizing that power, especially around AI, or especially around energy, it lowers our ability to own business. It lowers our ability to prosper if we're working for somebody
Sure.
else. It touches so many different things that we
It
ought to
does.
have lawmakers in there who have carefully considered, who've dealt in those industries, who knows what it means if you take away that kind of power from America and you give that transfer of wealth or that transfer of power to another entity,
Yeah.
right? And AI, much like the lithium battery, is by and large centralized in China.
Yeah, it is. This is one of Christ's name is he's called Master. Now, Master knows what a student needs. Now, if the master gives the student what they need prematurely, he disqualifies himself as a master.
Right,
So it's very important that the master understands that, okay, now the student needs this at this time frame. Now,
right,
sometimes the student will kind of get upset because they want X, but the
right.
master's saying, you're not ready for X yet. So let me give you Y instead. And
Yes.
so I love what you said about AI. You have people negotiating regulations. They don't know what they're doing, what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
They're novices here. And
Right,
that's the problem when it comes to a lot of politicians. They're career politicians and they have no real world experience.
right.
That's my problem with a lot of this. Now, let's go to what I call the alphabet crew. Um, the LGBTQIA, LMNOP,
QR.
yeah, that group, that
Yeah,
group, this
yeah,
agenda being pushed.
yes.
What are your thoughts on what's going on with Target, Budweiser, Miller, Ford? Yeah, I'm calling you out. All now, PetSmart is another one of them as well. Also, what is your thought process on the agenda
Yeah.
and also how it's been pushed?
Well, so let's talk about it from a shareholder standpoint. Okay, let's talk about
Okay.
straight business for a minute because I think it's the easiest place to garnish support.
Mhm.
Do you feel like it's fair to those people who have stock, and you're going to lose $1 billion in value overnight because you have an agenda you want to push, but you asked me to come and invest in your company, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And so now I think it is not good faith effort to the stockholders to treat them
Sure,
that way, right? So that's your
sure.
401k, Liddell. That's your
That's right.
401k.
That's
So
right.
from a business perspective, I have to question why. And so who's going to backfill that $1 billion in
That's right.
value? So when you're talking about the value of a company, right? Because
Mhm.
we talk about mergers acquisition, what's the value of the company? How are you going to backfill that? Who's doing that? Are there people? Are some of the big financial firms that have gone woke? Are they backfilling the dollars? And they might be, and that needs to be
Mm,
investigated very
that's right.
heavily.
It does.
And we've seen a lot of bubbles come and go because we've had bad actors in
Mhm,
in high ups in corporations, and then they let the shareholders down.
mhm.
And that's what I think you'll see here. Now, from a mom's perspective, let me make it just kitchen table. I
Sure.
I want to be the one who teaches my child.
Mm,
I don't want to co-parent with government. I
mm,
don't. I want it's not that I so we talk about everything in my household. We talk
mhm,
about gay rights. We talk about our Judeo-Christian values. We talk about everything. Nothing is off the table.
mhm.
But at the end of the day, that's my right as a parent to have that conversation with my child.
There you go.
And
There you go.
I don't want to walk into a store and be it always be in the forefront of the mind. Like, why do we have to talk about it all the time? Why
Sure.
does it always have to be pushed down my throat all the time? And that's my biggest beef with it, is that if I was leading with Christ so much so that it turns you off, right? And it made you like, oh my gosh, that's all she's talking, that's all she's talking about, it's all you would say, she doesn't care about me as a human. She doesn't care about my thoughts. She doesn't care about where I'm going, right? Now, can they share with me their thoughts and beliefs? Absolutely.
Sure.
And as I will share my thoughts and beliefs with them, but the conversation breaks down when we got too far of the left or too far of the right, refusing to listen.
There you go.
You're losing, let me bring this full circle for you. If you're losing $1 billion in wealth overnight, you are not listening.
That's right.
You're not
That's
listening.
right.
And so then we are each running to our corners, and we're gonna, you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden America breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
America breaks down. So at the end of the day, I practice this all the time on my Democrat friends because I love them, I trust their opinion, and I want to know if I'm thinking correctly.
Sure.
So I test this on them. And we talk about the transgender movement. We talk about these drugs that can chemically castrate a child, deeming them infertile for the rest of their life, by the way. And Liddell, I'm going to get really super technical with you. Forgive me.
Go ahead.
But that there's no orgasms anymore. There's no special things with their significant other anymore. And the minute I tell that to a grown man, his eyes get so big. He goes, I had no idea. I said, well, because unfortunately we are talking about very sensitive subjects, I think you ought to know all the facts.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So when I lay that out for them and I say, listen, we all made stupid decisions as young kids, and we thought, you might want to grow up and, be a unicorn someday, or you might want to grow up and be a firefighter. Shouldn't kids and children be allowed the room and space to mess up without it being life altering?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so my argument is, since we already have legal precedents at 21 before you can smoke, before you can drink. And last session, the Democrats in Texas House wanted us to move smoking back to being, 21, right?
Okay.
Shouldn't we also then use that same type of thought pattern behind a life-altering drug?
Sure.
Right? And
sure.
So, and then I get buy-in from my Democrat friends. They're saying, there's no harm in waiting, so let's wait.
Good. Well, let me ask you this question. Because I've seen this as well. We're still on the alphabet crew. The one thing that I've been seeing is Black history being used as a Trojan horse.
Yeah, no, don't allow it. Don't allow it. Yeah.
To push the alphabet crew's agenda.
Right.
And that leads into me to conclude that you're not really concerned about Black people. Right. You're concerned about an ideology being pushed, and that's a no-go for me at all.
That's exactly right.
Here's my question to you. You have some Black constituents.
I do.
You're going to be, if you're elected to.
I have some on my campaign team.
Gotcha. Here is the one question when I ran is, Liddell, what can you do for African Americans, Black people? And I'll answer that as far as when I'm interviewed.
Yeah.
But when it comes to you, what type of solutions or what are you going to really look at for African Americans, saying that, hey, I'm thinking about you. These are the issues that's important to you guys. What can you do to, number one, confirm that Black African Americans are heard?
Yeah.
And number two, begin to push some Black agenda as well.
Right. Well, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, white Americans want to own a business. They want to be in control of their own destiny. They want their children to be prosperous. They want to have a safe community. They want to be heard. They want their culture to be honored. They want their ideas to be honored. And I think that it's transcendent, if you will. I
Sure.
think so. And whenever I'm speaking to any of my African American friends or people that serve on my team, they want to be a part of the team. They don't want to be held on the outside or this over there. They want to be a part. We all want to be a part of it. We want to be a part of the American dream. We want to be heard, right? And so I go back to I like a lot of the policies that Trump did do, and I think even DeSantis would carry them on. I think it's really largely important that the opportunity to succeed is there for all Americans. And it's
Sure.
not hard. These things are not hard. You just
Hmm.
have to be purposeful behind it. You have to
Sure.
have a plan behind it. So obviously, my plan is building the family. My plan is making sure we're energy independent. My plan is making sure everybody would have the opportunity to own a business if they want to. My
Sure.
plan would be to make sure that those communities, that whenever they do have a good business idea, that we help them find funding for their business
Mm.
ideas, that we help them find space for their business ideas. Whenever, Liddell, when we had the Summer of Love that went through America and it destroyed those inner cities that still are not built back today, CVS is not
Sure.
in cities, Walgreens will not go back, all of these things. So rebuilding for them and helping them, will actually let them rebuild it themselves, because with our support as a team, because then they own it and it's theirs and it ought to be theirs.
So what you're saying is, because the question that is normally not asked to a lot of African Americans is, what's important to you?
Hmm.
The one criticism that I do have about the Republican Party is
Hmm.
there's no ask for the black vote,
Yeah. Yeah.
none,
None.
and that's a travesty.
Right.
And if you really look at African Americans, you look at a lot of them do lean a little bit conservative. They do.
100%. 100%.
Faith, family,
Yeah.
facts.
Yeah.
We like money too.
I
we
know.
like we like jobs too. We like lower taxes
Yeah.
too.
Right.
And so for me is, if if Republicans don't ask for the black vote, you don't deserve it at
No.
all.
Right.
And so I am making it a point of mine to say, hey, I'm going to make sure that African Americans are heard, to say,
Mm.
hey, ask for it. And so I like what you said concerning funding, business, money, as well as, which is great. And I'm assuming that you're talking about when it comes to lower taxes as well, also, because I'm a big
Yes.
believer
Right.
in lower regulation,
Mhm.
lower taxes invites in capital to be invested, jobs are then created,
Right.
money is flowing as well, and everybody's eating.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, do you agree with that whole premise as well?
I do. And so when you think about it, what I would take it a step further, whenever
Okay.
you're helping a individual, these are a lot of individuals, right? I mean, you can't do it always on a corporate level, but you're helping them
Sure.
dream. You're helping them dream and saying, okay, you've gone to college, or maybe you're not going to college, you're going to go to a trade or whatever. Where, if you could do anything, you could write your future, where would you be?
Hmm.
So helping them dream. And then sometimes they don't necessarily understand the dots to connect them to get to that dream. So making sure they understand what those programs are, or understand, how they can put their community get together to make those dreams come to fruition. It's really, that's where my strategist mind comes in. Is, it's great to think, yes, I'd like to grow up and, maybe I want to, code, and I want to do this beautiful software, and it's going to be a SaaS program, and I'm going to sell it to the millions, right?
Hmm.
But maybe they need to know how to get the first 4 or 5 steps of the funding to make that come a reality.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a lot that can be done, and it should be done, number one, for all Americans, but in our communities that need a little bit more help, whatever it is. And our realization, sometimes they don't even know, Liddell, they can dream that big. They've been
Mm.
down, they need to understand, yes, dream. Now, how do we come around you and your ideas, right? I don't know, if I don't remember the individual's name, but it was back in the early 1800s, whenever the peanut farmer was coming on
Yeah. Hmm.
American
Hmm.
society, and all the different functions that peanut can be in our normal ecosystem of our food, right? Well, that there was a lot of dreaming about what that meant, and actually having that peanut farm, developing that product, producing that product, scaling that product, getting that product into distribution and into
Yeah.
consumers' hands.
Yeah.
Right. In America, we used to dream that way. In America, we used to be about innovation. We used to do these things. And so we ought to get back to them again, because our minds are our greatest asset. That is not something that's new that is being said. It's just not something that we are focusing on right now.
Agree.
We ought to
I
get
agree.
that.
So what you're saying is putting something in place, some funding in place, some education in place,
Mhm.
that all Americans, but specifically African Americans, can tap into, so they can begin to dream again. Say,
Right.
okay, because I love what Miles Monroe said. Miles Monroe said, Dr. Miles Monroe said before he passed away, the most powerful force to man is vision.
Yes.
Without a vision, you will perish.
Right.
And I think a lot of individuals have stopped dreaming when dreaming is tied to vision. And
Hmm.
so, and I like that. I like that. And so, that's good there. I got to ask you this question too. This question too, because it's one side is pushing this
Yes.
and reparations.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
I think it's going to cause division because people don't understand it, and some people do, and some people don't. I think it's more powerful to come around an individual and give them the ability to own a business instead of doing a one-time give. I want to make it where you can have that business in perpetuity and forever and ever and ever if you want it, right? And the ability to develop that income and that pride that goes behind it. Now, if the heart behind the repatriation of funds is because we want America to recognize that there was a wrong done, let's get to that. Let's handle that. I think for decades there's been this back and forth of, one side feels like we've already healed with, there was a war, we got past it, and the other side says, no, this is part of my history. And because I'm learning it for the first time, I'm feeling it for the first time also.
Sure. Hmm.
So what I would like us to do, right, is to because I don't like when people are hurting. I'd like us to get to the healing part of it, to really heal
Sure.
America. And that takes listening. So when you're talking, when I'm as a you know half European, half Texan, a Greek coming out of me, right?
Sure.
I remember what communism was like because my dad taught me about it. So it's not different than you talking about slavery because your family taught you about it and that oppression that comes.
Sure.
So
Sure.
how do we get to a place? This is what I'm asking. How do we get to a place where there's real true healing? Because I don't know that we can grow and prosper the way I dream for you or you dream for me
Sure.
until we get to that place of healing. Now, if there's real healing that's behind some of those, it's not that I'm opposed to. I want to know what the real healing is.
Sure.
I'd rather raise somebody up to own their own business and be the
Mm.
manager instead
So
instead.
okay, and so I agree. Money does not just solve any healing. That's just not. That's that making any sense at all. But at
Mm-mm.
the exact same time, is the one thing that I hear, and it's a fact,
Mhm,
is the Native Americans got some form of reparations.
mhm,
The Japanese did
mhm,
as well.
mhm.
Other cultures got some form of reparations, but it seems to be that on the African American side, there's a lot of studying going on,
Yeah,
but
it's
there's
political
since
football.
1989.
Yeah, it's a
There's
political football again. So
it is,
now what I
it
would
is.
say is if there's going to be a I can't even say the word right now. I don't know why I can't get the word out.
It's okay. It's
Uh,
okay.
what I would like to say is, why don't we make it mean something that doesn't that's not a one-time
Agree.
pan? Why don't
Generationally,
it mean something that's generational? And the reason why I keep leaning on business because I know what it can do for a family.
so sound like what you're saying is if there's some form of payment, so to speak, let's tie it to business
Let's
so
try
that
something that's lasting, that means something,
Okay.
part of your
I like
heritage.
that.
That's something that is, because if let's say it ended up being, I'm just going to throw a dollar out. Let's say it ended up being $1,000 per person. Okay, well, you're that's here and gone, and then we say, check, look, we good white people, we did that. That sounds so stupid and awful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's awful. Instead, what I'm saying is, why not do something that's meaningful, that brings healing,
Mm.
that lasts, that is actually a part of, that can be a part of your inheritance, a part of what you can pass down. And that's why I think of, if we have policy that's in place that helps African Americans raise business or other
Mm.
things, right? Maybe it's that's they're tied to their education if they want to become a doctor. What if it's tied to, if they've got this plan, like I was telling you, developing software? Or what if it's something that's tangible, that not only gives to them, but it gives to society,
Sure.
that raises everybody up
Okay.
because they are being served, or whatever. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, I'd like us to see if we couldn't get to a healing place, a
Sure.
place, because if there's power in the healing for both parties. And listen, if America doesn't get to a place where we aren't tearing each other apart, then America's not going to survive.
Sure.
So
I got you. I respect you for even answering the question, because a lot of individuals will run from that.
yeah,
And this is I think, a detailed solution is need. I'm talking about to the details. So I like the business portion of it, which is good. I like the generational thought process of it, which is great. And I have some ideas. You and I can sit down and talk about it, and kind
yeah,
of
that's
hash
what
this
I
in
think. I
tomorrow.
think at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it should be there should be real people in the room. I know the politicians, I like to say they're not real sometimes, but I'm talking about real people in the room
Hmm.
whose agenda is for healing and solution,
Hmm.
and come up with and sit down and really figure out what would it mean to move it forward, and be
Sure.
about that purpose. And until we get to a place where we're actually having those real conversations,
Hmm.
with action behind them, then, and we're going to keep talking about this. We'll be talking about this in, when we're old and rocking chair.
Yeah. Yep. And losing teeth. Yep. You got to right there. Yeah. Thank you for even going there with me, because a lot of individuals, it's important to them, and so I said, all right, it's not just about me; it's about the audience. So I asked that question, and if you don't like it, get over it. Now, last question concerning the issues. Something just happened this Saturday
Yes.
that had a lot of people a little bit upset or turned up, as young folks say,
Yes.
um, concerning our Texas Attorney General, Ken
Yeah.
Paxton, being impeached.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you what your thoughts are. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna allow for you to go ahead and do your thing. Go ahead.
Well, this is the third time in Texas history this has happened, and I think it's
Okay.
interesting, right?
Mhm.
And so, of course, I put out a video based on the process. And so I'd like to hit some highlights, right, of why I put out the video I put out. And
Sure.
at the end of the day, I watched the 4-hour proceeding,
That's correct.
and I heard some of the House members, and a lot of them whom I've gotten to know and respect. They were
Mhm.
confused on the process that was happening. And even some of the
Okay.
Democrats stood up and they said, I don't like Ken Paxton, but this process is flawed at best. And I'm paraphrasing what they're saying.
Sure.
So the process did not produce any new evidence. And the evidence
Mhm.
that we have has been in the public eye, some of it for 6 years, some of it as long as
Mhm.
8 years
Yeah.
old. And at the end of the day, Ken's been elected twice now,
Yes, he has.
with this evidence that's out there. So I am of the opinion that the voter has spoken. The voter has spoken, and the voter wants Ken to do this job. And you and I are both from a very strong Judeo-Christian values. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, I want to say, if there's no new evidence, and at what point is he able to be forgiven and move on to do his job
Sure.
that the Texas citizens would like him to do?
Sure.
So I'm not defending Ken, but I am defending the voter and what the
Mm.
voter wishes. And I think that that's what separates me. I've had a lot of my sweet, moderate friends call me today very confused because they said, well, all of our Collin County representatives voted for impeachment.
Sure did.
And I said, well, I understand that. But if you hire me for this job, I want you to hire me because you know, like, and trust me. Not
Sure.
because I'm going to go along or get along with somebody else, but because I'm well thought, because it's purposeful, and because it's principled around our laws.
Yes.
Democrat and Republican alike in that chamber were questioning the process.
That's correct.
Democrat and Republican alike, they were the minority, but sometimes the minority is correct and not the majority.
That's right.
Sometimes they were questioning whether or not the public got to have full view of what they were speaking to.
Mm,
And I know not always in a grand jury the defendant gets to put forth his case,
sure.
but they could have let Ken put forth a case. Ken came prepared to do so, and they would not let him. And so,
Really?
yeah, it makes us feel like the process isn't fair. Okay, and so at the end of the day, I am for the voter. I'm for our Texas Constitution. I'm for our U.S. Constitution and the rule of law.
Mm,
And now the other side, they can argue, well, this is just a grand jury to see if there is enough evidence to push on. But again, I would argue that all evidence was produced if you're missing one side. And yes, can they do that? Sure, you can do it. It just gives an air of unfair. It makes
yes.
it very unfair. So I'm about the process. I think that if the process is done well, it doesn't matter who's in charge,
Yes.
because the person that is being accused, whether rightly or wrongly, is going to have a fair day.
That's right.
It's fair trial. So
That's right.
that's what I would say about that. At the end of the day, I am hoping that the Texas Senate will do their very best to make this come to a quick and speedy trial, because every American deserves that. I pray that they will adhere to a process that is fair. I pray that it'll be open and transparent. And I really hope that at the end of the day, we're able to move on very quickly, because we have much bigger issues to handle. Now, I'll tell you, my
Agree.
concern is Ken is not in his job. He's been removed from his job, and his name has been tarnished. And I think if he is exonerated, there ought to be a public apology towards him as well. Will we get
Mm,
that? Probably not. But Ken is doing some important work right now, and even the side that agreed, that voted for him for impeachment, has publicly stated that what he's doing right now, in fighting the Biden administration, is important work, and Ken is not able to do that important work. So Ken's not hurting right now. Liddell, you and I are hurting. Texas
yeah.
people are hurting right now because our attorney general is not able to fulfill those court cases right now, and not able to do the work that we need him to do.
Yes.
And so the process, I believe, was flawed. And it's not that I'm not bashing the individuals that did that. We just differ on this opinion. And here's the thing: I want to challenge everybody. If we really do want to care about America, if we really do care about America moving forward, being prosperous for our future generations, we ought to be able to have differing opinions without tearing each other down personally and making personal comments. We ought to be able to stand on the facts and say that, okay, this is where I come on this issue. This is where you come on this issue. And we work towards a common goal of getting it resolved quickly and speedily. I do not like the tearing down of individuals. I think it's
Yeah.
counterproductive, and it hurts our party. It
Yeah.
hurts our nation. It hurts our state. So
Yeah.
I'd like to round it out just with saying that I will differ from time to time. But as a what I hope to be a successful candidate, I will have my cell phones available, and I welcome people to sit at the table with me and ask me hard questions. And I say, always change my mind.
A little Stephen Crowder. I like that, guys. I would say we are we're at the end, guys, and concerning this, and I always ask this question. Really, two questions. The first question is, how important is and was your faith in your journey?
Oh, it's the anchor, right? It's what causes you to have empathy.
Mhm.
It's what causes you to love your neighbor, whether you agree with them or not, but you are
Sure.
called to love them. That means that
Mhm.
you really have to have a line of empathy, and it calls for servitude. So when you're serving others at its highest capacity, right? Then that love that pours out, that's what wins people. That's what wins their heart, to give them an enduring feeling towards you, to trust you. And so your faith, all that comes from our faith, right?
Hmm.
And then it's about trying to do what's right. Am I perfect? No. Am I going to make mistakes? Absolutely. We'll all make mistakes. But it's having that air of humility to know that you can make a mistake, just surrounding yourself with the right people. And,
Sure.
and when, it's not if, it's when you make a mistake,
Mm.
quickly apologize. You try to make it right. You try to do the right thing.
Hmm.
That's what your faith should be, is living out that faith. And what I'd like to see is our founding fathers, they called them the black robes. They were ministers and they wore black
Hmm.
robes. They took off the black robes, they picked up their musket, and they fought in the Revolutionary War.
Mm.
In a lot of ways, we're at war right now, a cultural war, a Cold War with China. And it's time for all the rest of us, I call us regular people, moms and
Sure.
dads and business people, to put down the laptops and to pick up our bully pulpit, our microphone, or whatever it is, and
Yes. Yes.
use our voices and our talents to benefit America right now.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Awesome. Awesome. And I always ask this question because people listening, they like the name of the show called The Countermove. And
Yes.
so I always ask this question is what was your counter move moment that said I have to change? And also, if
Yeah.
you could help someone out there that maybe, I'm at a counter move moment myself. So what was yours and that help someone as well also?
My big counter movement was coming to my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ at 16, because I was headed down a
Mm,
road. I'd either be in prison, I'd be a prostitute, I'd be in drugs, I'd be dead.
wow. Wow.
Yeah. So my counter move was, in that moment, when somebody witnessed to me and loved me enough to tell me
Mhm.
there is a better way. That's
Mm,
the big counter movement. But I'd like to think that I make a counter movement daily whenever I
gotcha.
choose to make an extra call, or I choose to serve my company, and I choose to do these things, or I choose to help a friend. And it's a constant recalibration of, am I doing in this moment? Am I using the only thing I can't be given back, which is time? Am I using my time properly? And if
Mm,
not, how can I redeem the time? How can I, use it? But I think it's each of us. It's important to stay on top of that. Are we taking care of our bodies? Are we taking care of our minds? Are we doing things to help our community? Right? Are we serving other people? And that
sure.
recalibration happens all the time. I call it finding the opportunity moments. And I always like to tell people, it's like cleaning your house. There's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
that going. You gotta keep it going. And so those are my two. There's my continual recalibration. But my big one obviously was realizing that I was headed down a very dark path.
Gotcha. 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 I understand that. I know for me, what I took from that is learning how to be disciplined,
Yes.
learning how to kind of renew your mind every day
Right.
and really begin to try to master a skill or craft.
Mhm.
And then once you master that, then begin to diversify, which is pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
y'all, this has been the longest interview ever that I've done on the camera, but it's all good. Y'all. I think it was phenomenal. It was great. And I think it was needed. And I got to say, guys, she was true to her word. She didn't run from nothing at all. Spoken like a true businesswoman. Well, Suzanne, again, thank you so much for your time. I guess it's in the middle of a business day. I know she be getting text messages all the time. They probably asking what's going on. But again, thank you so much for your time. God bless you. And God, I always in my cap pocket like this. I'm different. It's okay. I always say before you leave, because I always dress real clean. And while you can, take that picture for your mama now
Yes.
and holla at your partner. Suzanne, thank you so much for your time. God
Thank
bless you.
you. I've
All
enjoyed
right,
it.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye now.